Well, you guys, looks like we need to get into part one of the Married to Medicine reunion. And I ain't even gonna lie, this first part really stressed me out, got me all in my nerves. Honestly, not because it was just so much, but because I'm one of those people who get annoyed when you try to play on my intelligence. Like, that is a trigger for me. And the flip flopping that these ladies are doing, and in particular, who really low key was the one who pissed me off the most this episode, was Toya. It was Toya and Simone and Heavenly, who really just had me just really grinding my gears this episode. I mean, we all know about this Sweet Tea, and Quad saga, but at the end of the day, there's some acknowledging that definitely has to be had with these ladies and how they used everybody around them as, chess pieces on the board. Okay. And y'all want to talk about accountability, but Toya, you hold everybody else accountable. But like everybody said, what about you? Because you and the way that you was bucking up on Sweet Tea, couldn't have been me. Matter of fact, let me stop. We gonna go ahead and get into it, y'all. I'm gonna get done with this review and then I'm gonna go outside for a quick session because after watching that, I need a smoke break. Okay, they have me hot. Okay, hot. But yeah, if y'all new to my channel, hey, how you doing? Appreciate you for tuning in. Everybody else who's already part of the Juke Squad crew, y'all know what to do. Hit that like button, drop down in the comments, let me know that you stopped by. And let's go ahead and get into it because we got to get into the mess, y'all. All right. Okay, so the ladies are coming out, sitting down, and it was really funny that I sat there and saw Sweet Tea talking about, I want to be the last one to come out. I said, girl, Sweet Tea definitely, she has an invisible competition in her head with Quad, and she doesn't want to admit it. And also, she probably doesn't want to admit it because the other girls established that competition with her, but most of all, Gregory did. Gregory immediately put a competition between Sweet Tea and Queed, Lord Jesus, and Quad because he needs them to not get along. He needs them to not be good together because in that instance, I think he feels like Quad would have some type of, power, over Sweet Tea, possibly influence her, to do the same thing that she did, But when she said, I want to be the last one to come out, I was just like, okay, girl, whatever. So they all get out there, and the first thing we got to address is, who's missing? Miss Phaedra Parks, okay? Phony Phaedra Parks. So kind of found out there's some unseen footage of Miss Phaedra basically talking dog about the ladies. Talking about, they ain't nothing but a bunch of old, fat, aggravated, mean old women. They do nothing but, be negative to other people. And Phaedra, at the end of the day, you got all this to say, but you didn't say it on the couch. Every time, Phaedra has always been a confessional gangster. She never got shit to say at these reunions. And she get called out for half her stuff, and then she go on mute. But now here it is. You got all these things to say about these ladies, but where are you? Where are you? Okay? And so Simone pulls out, or no, Andy pulled out like this little fan that had Phaedra's face on it, and they were like making jokes about it or whatever. And so, heavily, like the other lady said, like, basically, when it came to the whole, trip situation, Phaedra knew that Apollo was coming and prepared with bringing Shaq. Now, I ain't mad at Phaedra for bringing Shaq because at the end of the day, y'all were going to play in Phaedra's face. So Phaedra said, I'm going to play right the back, so I wasn't really upset at the Shaq situation. It was definitely grimy though for you to sit there and act like you didn't know what was happening to the other ladies. Now that's where we look at Phaedra like, girl, you a fraud. And then her with the audacity to talk about these ladies are mean girls, even though they are, two truths can exist at the same time of Miss Phaedra. I think you hoes be forgetting, like, y'all do have literally a whole, gamut of, footages of your mean girl behavior. Like, Miss Phaedra, you think just because, like, you feel like you've elevated to a certain type of look on your face or acting a certain way now, all of a sudden, like, these other girls, as she said, these bitches, them bitches is beneath me. That's how she feels. And the ladies were acting like that when she first came on. It was, Phaedra this, Phaedra that, because at the time, they were trying to get rid of Quad's ass. But now here it is. Quad's on the couch and Phaedra not. But Phaedra basically is a coward for not doing this. We all know that she came on Married to Medicine until the meantime Real Housewives of Atlanta took her back. And so the minute that ink dried, Phaedra went right on over there and said, you hoes. Y'all mean and ugly. Bye. Sweet Tea tried to stick up for her because y'all know, coming in, Phaedra and Sweet Tea were kind of, or not really coming in, but like I guess they garnered more of a friendship towards the end of this season. And she was like, it's kind of hard, when you feel like there's no true friends in the group and you can't trust nobody and all that type of stuff like that. And it's like, girl, miss me with it. Like, literally lick everything from my butt crack down to the flow, because Phaedra is just full of it. That's all it is. And talk about, oh, no friends in the group. You didn't want friends in the group. But then I swear last season you was just talking about how, oh my God, it's amazing how these girls act. Had I been, with these girls, maybe I'll still be married to this day, so once again, the flip flopping, the playing in people's faces, can't do it. It just annoys the living piss out of me. So now that we're on for Phaedra, we got to get into obviously the awkwardness of it being, Quad. Did they talk about Quad and Sweet Tea next? Did they get into Quad and Sweet Tea? Or was it, hell, it don't matter. I'm talking out of order. Anyways, I'm just going to talk about what I remember. Because I watched it 1.5 times, but after that, my nervous system just couldn't handle it again, y'all. So from, what I remember with Quad and Sweet Tea, basically now we got to get into, Sweet Tea coming back and everything like that. And, Sweet Tea, I'm here to tell you, whoever did your hair, the idea of Sweet Tea's hair was super cute, but every time they freaking zoomed in on her, you could see the parts in between the Bantu knots was just so not neat. The whatever hold or gel or edge control they used to give you those Bantu knots was not good, because it was just like, it just all looked combined, like conjoined at the front. All you just see is like all these uneven balls on the top of your head. But nonetheless, we get into, jealousy accusations and all that type of stuff, and everybody's laughing because it's like Sweet Tea, she's doing stuff all off, on social media and got something to say about Quad being jealous. And Quad is like, jealous of what, ma'am? Jealous of what? And so Sweet Tea basically was just saying, is like, oh, when I was saying like that of jealousy of just like what I have, because, at the end of the day, like, girl, you only here because Greg, he is the medicine, you need to be thanking him and everything like that. And it's like, Sweet Tea, yes, okay, Greg is the medicine, but girl, when him and Quad divorced, who stayed on the show? Right. Yeah. Okay. So, does Quad still need to be married to medicine, my love, when she is the epitome of married to medicine, unfortunately, and that's what pisses off the other ladies, because as much as they want to get rid of Quad, they know Quad is, one, good for TV, and two, keeps them from having to tell a lot about the shit going on in their lives, because truth be told, Simone and Cecil still is feeling some type of way about each other. Contessa and Scott, and we know Heavenly ain't finna never talk shit on Damon, but we know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And Jackie, poor Jackie over there dealing with a man who's in Dominican Republic, 8 months out of the year. So like, yeah, they need Quad to distract. And maybe that's part of the reason why the ladies be upset at her, in particular Simone, because it's so crazy. Quad talked about, coming back into the group after what happened with the ladies last year, and, finally revealing King, and, her being in a relationship. And Simone's thing has always been, one, you gave us your ass to kiss, and two, we don't ever know nothing about you. And Quad is literally still like, after everything that you guys done, you don't deserve to know shit about me. Simone, you are not entitled to a woman's life that you know absolutely, like, you're not even cool with. Last year, y'all tried to vote her off Gilligan's Island. Then here y'all go with the fake shit. Here go Toya and the other lady talking about, we didn't know Simone was gonna do that. No, like, we didn't know she was gonna do that. Okay, but when she started doing it, why didn't none of y'all say nothing? Right, yeah, okay. So wasn't none of y'all's faces looking hella shocked at all when Simone was having that conversation? Then, not to mention, as Quad said, I sat there and took it from all of you in Napa. I sat at that table. I didn't run like Phaedra. I let all of y'all have y'all's issues with me, and whatever your challenges are with me. As what she said, what is your challenge with me, Simone? And so now it's like onward and upwards. But for some reason, Simone and Quad keep going back. And personally, I feel like they keep going back because Simone doesn't truly want to admit that she can't stand Quad, that she don't like Quad. And also, she's, keeps doing the back and forth with her, because as much as she don't like Quad, she also needs Quad on the show. So y'all keep doing this back and forth with Quad, so the Quad's gonna do the back and forth with you. It doesn't take away from the fact that Quad is dramatic and extra and long-winded and sometimes can be overbearing and do too much. All of that can be true, but it don't change the fact of like, you, Simone, clearly ain't let go of a lot of the shit, because here it is, next episode, y'all still fighting again. But I'm glad that Quad like said that. She was like, especially what happened last season when Simone tried to throw, the untimely, unfortunate death of her niece back in her face and stuff like that. Simone knew what she was doing. She was trying to hurt her, and trying to prove a point in the process. And so it's like, y'all are doing these things to Quad, but then wanting her to just like, she said, you cut me till I bled out. She just dramatic, but the truth is the truth. And so, from there, I think, after they went to talk about, Quad being back in the group and, moving onward and upwards, Simone is trying to take that same step, but the onward and upwards isn't necessarily translating over there with Quad and Sweet Tea. And it's so crazy because Quad did kind of talk head on to Sweet Tea a lot this reunion too. She's like, girl, I'm letting you know I ain't got a problem with you, and then she want to throw out, well, she jealous this and jealous that. And Quad's having to ask, like, jealous of what? Like, girl, I left him. Like, I don't want to be with him. Like, you see what I got? My king, okay, my king over here, and then allegedly they starting with IVF. But when she said that, I was like, now, Quad, are you doing IVF and having a baby because you want to have a baby? Or are you doing, rushing into having a baby because you want to, you want to drop the baby first before Sweet Tea and Greg? Because best believe there is a silent competition between Quad and Greg. Best believe. And not even on just some like competing with each other, more on some they petty. Both of them are petty. Point blank period. So what happened after that? Ooh, so we started talking about basically Sweet Tea's, entry into the group and everything like that. Obviously, it's been uncomfortable for her. She's like, I'm trying to break into a friendship group. The fact that it's not crazy that Sweet Tea thought that she was gonna get friends with these ladies because that's how they made her feel when she first came in. Remember, they was doing all the posting on Instagram and Heavenly. They was doing that. It's not confusing as to why Sweet Tea, was able to convince herself like, oh, these ladies would be my friends, because they literally, filleted Quad open last season to choose Sweet Tea and Phaedra. But then the Phaedra bag fell through, and then now Sweet Tea, that's falling through because now Quad has not only come back, but come back with a nigga. Okay, so now we actually got true storyline of a relationship that people would want to see, because Quad, as much as people don't want to admit it, when you think of Married to Medicine, there's no way you don't think of Quad. You ain't thinking of Gregory's old, limp dick ass first. You're not. They actually end up going back and forth. I forgot over what. Baby, when Quad said, she was like, girl, you come back to the show and you getting talked like getting talked to like shit on a stick. She's like, you better get used to it. You better get used to it. I was like, oh no. I was like, damn. Because Sweet Tea, that is the truth. And we all saw it on camera. That's the sad part, when now it's not only, Quad knows because she was in a relationship with this man, but the whole world knows because he did it on national TV to you too as well. Because we saw this with Quad. And now to watch you go through the same thing is crazy. And I think a part of Sweet Tea knows that, which is why Toya said, who's going to struggle being accountable, honest today? She said Sweet Tea, because it's going to be hard for Sweet Tea to truly be honest about her feelings in this situation, because she's always going to be in defense of Gregory. But Sweet Tea talking about, the ladies kind of really wanting her to go to war with Quad. And here go Toya yelling, that's not true. Like, girl, you are such a liar. You won't be accountable. I was like, wait.
Whoa, now. You got too much dip on your chip.
I'm like, why is Toya like yelling at this girl like that? Especially for the fact that you literally were like, this past season with Sweet Tea, we're good with her. You were trying to, convince her to come to the group and stand on her own and things like that. So I think Toya, as everybody else is doing, is looking for a reason to cut Sweet Tea out and trying to find a way to instigate something with her, so they feel justified in how they are now treating her. And it's effed up because y'all are sitting here acting like we didn't just watch y'all. Like, because y'all's playing foiled is why y'all are in this situation of like, oh, do we pick Quad over Sweet Tea, or do, like, whatever it is. But now you want to like try to make it seem like there never was with y'all and Sweet Tea, and that's not how it works, because y'all brought that woman on to rub in Quad's face for one, because y'all didn't like Quad at the time. Hell, Toya, of anybody, we knew you didn't like Quad the most and had a valid reason to, which is why you were cool with Sweet Tea. And she was like, Toya and Heavily behind the scenes were really wanting me to go to war with her. Yes, because one, they're trying to make a TV show, and two, it is the story. A woman, comes on where her ex-husband gets married. Naturally, people are going to understand that is the immediate story, because it is awkward as hell, and don't nobody want to be where their ex-husband is, i.e., which is why when the ladies get asked themselves, hey, would you be on the show with your ex-husband and his new woman, and all that type of stuff like that, all them bitches said no. So it's like, y'all wanted Quad to do it, but y'all ain't willing to do it for a check. But Quad and Sweet Tea at one point get going back and forth. She was like, girl, your country. And I ain't gonna lie, Sweet Tea kind of killed me. She's like, girl, you ain't nothing but a hop, skip, and jump away in Mississippi. That means you a Beverly Hillbilly. Like, she made me laugh. She's like, bitch, you ain't nothing but a hop, skip, and jump away, Beverly Hillbilly. I was like, I did laugh at that. And y'all, I ain't gonna lie, Sweet Tea's Tiggo Bitties was killing me this episode. It was like they was spilling, okay? The definition of overflow, cup runneth over. It was like they were like, I don't know how to explain it, because the straps were too thin. And then like as she was sitting, it was like they were up, but like hanging to the side, like I felt so bad for her, because it's like, I like the color on her and I like the concept of the dress. Like, the dress should have been longer, really, but she was trying to dress a little bit younger. The dress should have been longer, and like that's what that should have been. But nonetheless, as Toya is screaming over Sweet Tea, Andy's trying to calm her down and everything like that, because Toya, she was like, she was just going off, and I really was just like so annoyed by that, just really pissed off. And so Simone comes over and then kneels in front of Sweet Tea. I was like, girl, if you don't get out of my face with this, I'm coming to you as a big sister. Girl, you weren't big sister during the season. Now all of a sudden you want to come be big sis with your big buck teeth. Girl, get out of my face. Like, don't patronize me, because at the end of the day, Toya was too hype for a woman right next to her. That's how I don't even, the whole situation, I'm upset about being on this couch, and I was just like, if I was Sweet Tea, like, they what is real crazy to me is like, Sweet Tea is having allegedly these big dramatic reactions and things like that, but like a lot of Sweet Tea's fights with them have been reactionary, or the things that they're telling her is too much have all been reactionary. So I'm not gonna, does Sweet Tea have her ways about her, and then I'm looking at her my good eye? Yes, but I'm not gonna put too much on her that ain't, because a lot of it is from the ladies. But trying to now paint her as this person who wanted it with Quad the whole time, and jealous, and you wanted to do all these things. Y'all gave her the playbook, and she tried to go by it, just long as y'all had y'all's playbook for the last season. But it's just that everybody's shit went up in flames, and so now here y'all are trying to hurry up and grab for life vests and floating devices, and leaving everybody else to hang out to dry, which is just crazy. But Simone, you can miss me with that bending. I'm coming to you as a big sister, and Sweet Tea killed me, because she's like, they keep trying to fight with me. She was like, no, there's no fighting. She's like, they keep trying to fight with me, but I'm letting you know I can go to war. I said, you know what? Let them know, Sweet Tea. In this moment, I absolutely was here for it. So they got to take a break. They switch on over to Contessa and Heavenly. And y'all know in this situation, they are never going to agree. Basically the whole thing with Contessa and Sweet Tea, Contessa and Heavenly started really truly when after Heavenly told Contessa, look, you talking about it, your marriage and everything, if you don't plan on going nowhere, shut the fuck up, but what really did it, which Heavenly was dead ass wrong for, was her live. Her live really just reiterating, like, and people asking, so do you think Contessa's in a, in a schmusive relationship? And she's like, yes, verbally, emotionally, like it was not something that you do to a friend. I'll just put it that way. Even if something is the truth, it doesn't mean it has to be said. It doesn't mean that, you're validated, or you are, like, you are valid in saying it, because at the end of the day, if that is your friend, you don't do it to the public in social media, because they're already on her about her relationship in the first place. So don't, actually give plausibility to the shit that people are seeing. Although we were watching our goddamn selves, you as a friend and as somebody who has close conversations with Contessa and has close conversations, as a friend, because you did the same shit with Simone, which is why y'all, got into it, and how she fell out with Jackie, because you did that shit about Cecil, because you can't say that on social media, because everybody knows that at the time you and Simone had a close relationship, and she was, venting to you. So if you are saying something, you offer, actual validity to the context. And so that's where Heavenly went wrong. But Contessa, bitch, like, her part in being wrong is the fact that you were wanting to plant the whole thing on Heavenly, like the whole everything of why people were, ragging you and Scott out was because of Heavenly, and that ain't true, bitch. Like, bitch, we was ragging you and Scott out because, girl, that whole season we was witness to it, okay? The fact that Scott, was messaging a therapist but not a therapist or some shit like that, we saw that. We did. We saw when he was being passive aggressive with the kids and telling them stuff about you and making slick little remarks. We did. So, like, yeah. And so I'm glad finally Toya just kind of spoke up. It was like, y'all both, are even. Like, y'all both had got y'all one-offs with each other, had y'all's like, this is it. Like, y'all are even. And especially in the fact that, of course, I gotta get into the fact that Heavenly loved to talk about yo mama this and everything like that. And at this point, everybody knows that's Heavenly's go-to. She from Miami. They love a good yo mama. But in this particular session, Quad said it to Heavenly, like, girl, especially when somebody's parent is deceased, like, come on now. We know that's your go-to, but, and then, like, the way she doubled down, like, my mother who's deceased, she's like, yeah, fuck that bitch. And even Sweet Tea was like, you said fuck that bitch. She's like, no, I didn't. And she go to Jackie, did I say that? First of all, I'm gonna say it here and say it now. Next season, Jackie needs to be gone. Jackie needs to be gone. Bravo, fucking bravo. Shout out to Denise Richards. Jackie needs to be gone. Period. This whole first, did y'all hear Jackie say but a few words this whole first episode? Right. This whole season, what has Jackie done? For the past 2 seasons. It's time for Jackie to go. There are enough doctors in Atlanta, or people with MD, or whatever, physician, whatever, nurse, whatever, in Atlanta. It's time for Jackie to go. But I digress. We get into Toya, y'all. Toya, she done moved into a new house once again. Well, I tell you, Toya, because what came up in conversation was the fact that Toya loves to rag on Eugene, and I'm sorry, I still feel some I don't know. Yes, like, that's how they I guess, joke with each other, but there's a difference between, in my opinion, there's a difference between like, being a couple that's comfortable with acknowledging other people's attractiveness. Like Toya said, like, I know he look at other women, like, I know he find other women attractive, like, just like I find other men attractive. Like, that's not the thing for me. To me, it's the constant denigration of Eugene that kind of, like, bothers me a little bit, because if roles were reversed, like, truthfully, honestly, we would, if Eugene was doing that type of stuff to Toya, we would be looking sideways at that too, and it's always like a thing of how she could do better than him and things like that, or she was like, she's the gold mine, and in the essence of, like, he would be nothing without her, like, I don't know, it's just something about that to me that just kind of, like, things that make you go but yeah, so she moved and she's like, my 5th house or whatever. And she threw a little jab in there talking about, at least I didn't move it to nobody else's house. I didn't move it to somebody else's house. And everybody caught on until it clicked to Sweet Tea. And it's like, damn, like, Sweet Tea, you ain't changed nothing. Like, did you change the curtains, the table, the same ass table is in there? And then so Sweet Tea made it, like, said something like, girl, like, I bet your name ain't even on the deed or something like that or whatever. Sweet Tea was like, she was like, that's Greg's house or something like that. And so she's like, the name is on my deed, where she's like, my name is on the mortgage or whatever. And so just kind of like, girl, I really hope your name is on that house. I hope your name is not on that house, because then that means Greg and you was going 50-50. And Greg, him being an older gentleman as he is, the older gentleman caller, knows that his part of this whole thing is for him to bring the funds. And so it's, access to the money is not looking, like what it is, in my opinion, if this is what's going on. But I digress. So the end of the reunion, y'all, was basically Contessa and Heavenly. Y'all know they was having a little battle because, they did go from being super close, friends, to being in this situation. But, the reunion ended with them going back and forth, and Heavenly basically telling Contessa, like, my problem with you is I don't know who you are. I don't know, the real you when you're telling the truth or anything like that. And unfortunately, because of what we saw with Contessa, with that season with Scott, it's like 1 minute you're saying this, and this, and we're watching it on camera, but then you want to go back and be like, no, that's not it. Like, and it's like, bitch, yes, it is. But when you are a woman in a relationship, a lot of the times what most women feel indebted to do or guilty to do is to make sure they make their husband and the household look good. It's always the woman's responsibility to make, everything, appear as all good in fairy tales and fallacies, when that really don't be true. But when other people point it out, it's like you want to stick your head in the sand. But Contessa was like, well, girl, right back at you. I feel the same way about you, because because if we want to be real, that's when Andy talked about brought up the thing of like, oh, with the allegations about Damon, Contessa, is that true or whatever? Talking about mixed babies with the last name Kynes. Now, is she talking about Damon's babies or her sons? Because I thought it was her son that was allegedly had some mixed babies up out here. But outside of that, obviously is the rumors about Damon. Is Damon out here in these streets? Shout out to Mariah Hook.
Do I need to bring the receipt, baby girl? Because I got receipts.
Is he out here in these streets? And Andy basically straight up asked the other ladies, have you heard anything about Damon? And at first it was kind of quiet, but then all of a sudden the other ladies was like, me. Toya was like, me. Simone was like, me. Simone said straight up that somebody told her that they saw that Damon got another woman's number, and they just look at Heavenly's face all zoomed in, and it was so crazy because Heavenly was like, you don't believe that though. She wasn't yelling or nothing. It wasn't, the crazy part is you can tell when something's going up, because it's not about that's a lie. It's, they always turn it to, you don't believe it, do you? Like, you don't believe that, because that's what Damon did. That's exactly what Damon did with Greg. He was like, do you believe that? That's my character. Do you believe that? And that's why Greg had to be like, nigga, I don't know what you do in your private time. Like, don't be trying to flip this on me. Like, and that's literally what happened. So it definitely, Heavenly know what that man Damon doing, but she ain't going nowhere. So she taking her own advice, shutting the fuck up, because she ain't going nowhere, okay? And then that's where the episode ended, basically. So y'all drop down in the comments on what you feel about part 1 of the reunion. Do you guys feel like the ladies is not being honest about their situation with Quad? Toya did call them out of the fact that, yeah, y'all was apologizing and everything, but y'all ain't really mean it though, because y'all just wanted Quad to be quiet. And lastly, do y'all believe Sweet Tea when she said the ladies wanted her to go to war with Quad? Or was it her genuinely being jealous and wanted to do it herself? I believe her. But y'all make sure to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Follow all the my stuff. Drop down in the comments. Let me know that you stop by. Hit that like button. I'll catch y'all hoes later. Deuces.